And we are back, and we just finished a contender for Best Original Screenplay at this upcoming Oscar race. It's May-December from 2023, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 57 minutes. We saw this on Netflix. This is directed by director Todd Haynes, with a writing credit to Samy Burch and Alex Mechanik. This is the story of Grace, exquisitely played by Julianne Moore, who's just, is she, I feel like she should have been nominated for this. It's such an interesting performance because, you know, in other reviews, you've talked about how, like when we talked about The Northman, you didn't know who to root for. There were no definitive good guys or bad guys. And I feel like in this film too, there's such blurry lines with all the characters except for Joe.
Yeah,
I feel
I would agree
Joe
with
is
that.
the most tragic character in this whole ensemble.
Oh, absolutely. He's the one you feel sympathy for because both in terms of the history of these characters and just the life that he's leading, he is definitely kind of a victim of everything. So yeah, you definitely feel that I thought he did a great job portraying that because he's a grown man, but he's playing a grown man who
is a child.
He never really grew up.
Right.
He never, like, I think they said the affair happened when he was 13 or when he was in 7th grade. And then just the way he acts.
The way he carries himself.
The way he carries it, like, especially the way he carries it, the way he moves physically. There were many scenes where he just sort of looked like a forlorn little boy who was, like, sad about something. My team lost the big game.
Yeah.
He looked like that.
Yeah.
Even though he's gigantic.
He's gigantic. I mean, he's built like a man. He looks, for all intents and purposes, like a man. But yes, there's something missing and broken in him.
And it's like a weird dichotomy of his character. It's like physically, he's this grown adult man, but through the circumstances of his life and the fact that he is with Julianne Moore's character, Grace, he never grew up.
Right. And even though he's got a wife and children.
He's got children. He's 37 now or
36
or whatever age he is. I don't know, there's just something very childlike about him.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as Grace goes, it's hard to figure out who. I mean, I don't think you're ever supposed to root for Grace.
No. But sometimes I feel like you can have some sort of sympathy for her, but at the same time, there's like these weird moments where you're just like, no, I don't know.
I think that's like the hook that they're trying to grab you with. That maybe this character is sympathetic. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something more to it, and that's what Natalie Portman's character is trying to discover. Because when you see stories about this, or this type of story, and this is something that's very true to the real world of these things.
There was a big scandal. Yeah. Yes. But she was a substitute teacher. She in a store.
But whenever you see like dramatizations of it, it's just sleaze. It's just exploitative. They're trying to get ratings. It's like, ooh, sexy school marm going after the young buck.
Yeah.
And it's just gross. It's flat out gross. And I got the feeling that that's exactly the type of film that Natalie Portman was what she was basically signed up for, but she wanted more.
Right. She wanted to class it up.
She wanted to get into the soul of that character and find something that we could find some kind of sympathy for, or I don't know what. And
do you think she finds it?
No, because
do we spoil this? I mean, I feel like it's like from A to B, but at the end,
there's not much to spoil about it, because honestly,
we see her doing the role.
Yeah, we see her doing the role, and it's just as sleazy looking and exploitative as you would expect it to
be. Yeah,
I mean, what the hell? This is the snake, and it doesn't bite. It's not that kind of a snake.
Yeah,
it was exactly what you would see on like Lifetime or Cinemax or something like that. It's just gross. It's just, and it looked, the way it was filmed, it looked sleazy. It was like the lighting was,
It was like one step up from porn.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just awful. Whatever film this was going to be, it was going to be awful.
Yes. I mean, I feel like Todd Haynes, as the director, really likes making viewers uncomfortable.
Oh, he succeeded.
Yeah.
Because everything was weird about this film.
Yes. There were so many things where I was just like, I literally hid my face.
Oh, yeah. And you always had a cue when to do it because of that ridiculous music.
The music. That was,
the first time it hit was that scene with the refrigerator. And she just goes to the refrigerator and she grabs the handle and she right before she opens, suddenly this like incredibly melodramatic music just blasts out of nowhere. She opens the door and she sort of thinks pensively, I wonder if there's enough hot dogs.
Which may be the greatest line ever uttered in a film. I mean, come on. Come on.
And I looked at you and I was like, is this a
giggled.
comedy?
Yes.
I asked you flat out, is this a comedy?
And I was like, I don't think it's supposed to be. But according to IMDb, it's tagged as comedy drama. You wouldn't think that.
No, well, it's not. There's no jokes or slapstick moments or anything like that.
And you would think that the story of a 36-year-old woman seducing a 12-year-old boy, there wouldn't be any comedic elements.
It's about a child molester. She rapes a boy, and then they fell in love.
Yes. And can we talk? I mean, she's always been great, Julianne Moore. Even when she was a soap opera actress, when she played Franny. But can we talk about just how delicious she is in this? I mean, she is. The scene towards the end where she sort of has it out with Joe in the bedroom, and she's like, you were the one in control or something. You were the one in control. And she kept saying that to the point where he was almost confused. He was trying to articulate something to her. And he, even his body language, the thing that you mentioned before, him being stuck as a child. It's so apparent in that scene. Yeah. It is so apparent. And it's so tough to watch. Yeah. It is so tough to watch as a parent, as a grown ass woman who knows that you shouldn't be seducing 12-year-old boys. Holy cow. I mean, listen, kudos to the actors, first of all, for taking on these roles. And secondly, for breathing such unbelievable life. I mean, I feel like everyone was robbed of an actor nod here because I think Natalie Portman as Elizabeth is stunning. Julianne Moore, she's transcendent. I mean, she is probably one of our best actresses of our generation. Even in shit movies, she is just amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talk about Meryl Streep, and of course, Meryl Streep is the GOAT, but let's not forget Miss Julianne Moore. She is she's phenomenal. Fantastic. She is a phenomenal actress. And not to be dismissed either, Charles Melton. I mean, I've never seen this kid before, but holy smokes, he was fantastic. I mean, I think of the three, he might have been my favorite.
Well, I think, because he's the one who actually
who you
could see
really
going through kind
for.
of a change too. And they were a little heavy-handed with that, with the whole, look, there's the chrysalis popping open and there comes the monitor. That was that was some heavy-handed metaphor nonsense going on. But it
worked.
It worked because it shows that he was evolving because of this experience. Mm-hmm. And Julian, that scene in the bedroom, and like you said, you really see his body language because he's sitting in the chair and then she's like, "Come over here."
Right. And then she's
when you see him get up, he's got his shoulders sagging. His pajamas are too big for him, and
his eyes are down constantly. He never makes eye contact with her.
I mean, she
is the alpha.
It's like what I said. He's like, oh, my team lost the baseball game. It's like that. And yes, she is definitely, and she is the alpha in this situation. But she is telling him, no, You were the one in charge. You were the one in charge.
Right. Is she gaslighting him?
Oh, absolutely. He was 13.
Right. And he says that. I couldn't have been making these decisions. And she's like, that's bullshit.
Maybe I was too young to be making these decisions. There's no maybe about it. A 13-year-old cannot make adult decisions.
Right.
Yeah, there's a reason why there are laws. 13-year-olds their brains are not fully formed.
Right. They
think about the stuff you
drive.
think about the stuff that you thought was super important when you were 13.
Right.
And try and picture, okay, well that's the life I'm going to lead now that I'm middle-aged.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
The important stuff at 13 is not the important stuff at 36.
No. It's not like, I'm going to take all my life savings and buy a bunch of Pokemon cards.
I mean, you could, but...
Yeah, these things are going to go big. Pokemon cards.
I mean...
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's funny. You mentioned the music, and it's funny because I feel like I'm very sensitive to that, especially when I'm watching films. And in here, it was just, I mean, I think to me that was the comedy, right? That music, because it was just so over the top.
The comedic element of this movie was definitely the music, because it would just come blasting out. And it's like, and it isn't subtle at all.
No.
It is the most seriously melodramatic pianos type music.
Yeah.
And every time I heard it, I was just like, everybody should be wearing a puffy shirt and should just slowly look off into the distance with like a pensive stare.
Yes. Well, the other thing was, not recently, but in the past, we have seen Magnificent Obsession, which is a Douglas Sirk film, which to me, is the king of the melodramas. And to me, this felt like a Sirk film. Like, this felt like this director would have made this film.
I could totally see that.
But the topic is cringy. I mean, she is a sex offender. She went to jail. And that's part of the story as well. But there's so many different... The other thing I found interesting from the Elizabeth point of view was going to these different people to get, quote unquote, the story, and how one of her children from her previous marriage, that guy Georgie, says her older brothers, I guess, molested her. And how that kind of opened up this new thing in Elizabeth's brain. And she even says, well, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And that kind of does make sense, but then you have that scene towards the end of the graduation where she was like, oh, Georgie told me.
Yeah.
And that's the rantings of somebody who doesn't have, what was it, like self-esteem or confidence or something
like that.
Yeah. And she basically was like, I want you to portray me as somebody with confidence.
Yeah.
Which was such a weird thing to say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think what Georgie said was true.
No?
No. Georgie was messed up on his own.
Right.
And another thing was, I mean,
But then why would he make something up to the actress and then tell his mother?
I think he made it up to her because it's like, look at the insight I could provide.
Right.
But I'll give that to you if you let me be the music supervisor of your movie.
Right, which he did say.
Yeah, he was clearly out for himself.
Yes.
And plus, he's got some deep-seated resentment towards the mother.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it didn't. It would, like she said, it would make a lot of sense. But I don't know. I think maybe if something like that did happen, she would probably have used that in the past as an excuse
for what she did
and she is more about. I mean, she's definitely a manipulator
for sure.
You clearly see that. I mean, that's demonstrated
throughout
so blatantly in the scene
with the daughter
where the daughter's trying on dresses. You're so brave for going sleeveless.
Yeah.
You're so brave for going sleeveless. And guess what? She didn't go sleeveless.
No.
Julianne Moore got what she wanted.
Right.
She was an absolute manipulator, and you see it again. You were the one in control.
Right. And then after the scene with Georgie, we get into the scene with Elizabeth and Joe, which was disturbing to watch, first of all. And then secondly, her conversation with him was also tough to watch.
The conversation after
What happens, yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, that was like another aspect that shows how naive and
Joe is.
sheltered Joe has been for his entire life.
Right.
And another, like, what's her name saying, oh, he had way more experience than I did.
Yes.
No,
yes.
he did. He clearly didn't.
Right.
Because
she was like, yeah, because she even says, like, oh, he had 2 girlfriends where I only had Tom. And she was like, he was doing stuff at 12. Yeah. Kind of, she tried to call her out on it.
Yeah. And what was it? Honestly, what Elizabeth says, he's like, well, what happened? And she's like, this is just what grown-ups do.
Yeah.
What grown-ups do. Because even she could see, I mean, what did he think was going to result from this? That they were going to have a relationship now? Probably, because I think that's all he knew.
Right.
It was like, oh, well, you kiss, and then maybe you do some more stuff, and then you're married.
Right.
Right?
Well, and also, like, whoever the other person that he was texting, remember? He even says, like, oh, maybe we should go here. And the other person is like, I thought you were married.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand, like, I guess, I don't want to say social etiquettes, but to an extent, yes. Like, he doesn't understand, like, the language of...
I don't think he just doesn't understand relationships.
He doesn't.
He's never been part of a healthy relationship,
no.
Especially with a woman. With a woman.
Yeah.
It's just always been, hey, we're together now.
Right.
You belong to me.
Yeah.
It's honestly, that it just shows how stunted his emotional growth was because of this whole incident.
Yes, absolutely. But I also felt, by the same token, I felt like he was a very loving father to his kids.
Yeah,
I think of all the things that have happened to him, maybe that was like his biggest point of pride, and also maybe where he felt happiest and where he may have been successful, because I think his kids genuinely loved him.
Yeah, they didn't have a problem with him.
Yeah.
Any issues they all had, it was with the mom.
With the mom, right.
Yeah.
That scene in the restaurant.
Probably because the kids were able to see how manipulative she was.
Right.
Remember what you bought me for graduation, Mom? You bought me a scale.
Oh, God.
You put a bow on it. And then she says, oh, it wasn't a gift. And then she's like, well, my mom gave me that gift. It was like she was just scrambling to come up with justifications for being called out on her manipulations.
Yeah, that scene, and the other daughter was trying on dresses, was horrid.
Yeah.
That was tough to watch. I was hoping that Elizabeth would say something like, I think you look really nice, or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could tell that she really wanted the other dress.
Yeah.
Ugh. What else did you think? This isn't something that you would seek out, for sure.
No, absolutely not. There really isn't much. This isn't the sort of film where it's just like, oh, here's a great ending, and you're just like blown away. It just sort of stops.
Yeah, it's very.
It's just Elizabeth goes to watch this lady to sort of, I don't know, get into her mind and understand her more so she could portray her better. And that's it. It ends. She goes and she portrays her.
Yeah.
And from what you see, I seriously doubt this is going to be a
stellar movie.
A nuanced or stellar performance. It looks like it's just going to be some sort of
movie of the week.
Yeah.
As viewers, do we also contribute to the the continued victimization of people by consuming this media?
Oh, absolutely.
This is a story. Absolutely. If we want to be honest, this is probably very much rooted in that whole Letourneau situation that happened. So how responsible are we as viewers for perpetually victimizing victims here?
100%. I mean, the reason why this crap is on when it happens gets plastered all over newspapers and magazines and stories that generate from it. It's because people want to see this stuff. They want to see the absolute dregs of humanity and be like, ooh, look at those people. Oh my God.
Yeah. Now I feel better about my life.
Yeah. Look, my life's shit, but at least I'm not this lady.
Although this lady has the great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Going on. That music was nuts.
They should, seriously, for this movie, they should just sell like a little box that you press.
Seriously.
So you just suddenly just blast this, piano concerto.
Yes.
I wonder if there's enough hot dogs.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun.
You know what? I would love whoever is at Netflix licensing retail, please get on that.
Yeah, get the May December sound box.
Yes. Keychain form so I can have it with me at all times.
3 different melodramatic songs for when you just feel like
absolutely
busting out your puffy shirt and
you need a little something extra.
Looking out at the rain or something.
Oh my goodness. What did you think of the ex-husband?
I could see after all this time him being like out, you could see he still had some resentment towards it, but you could see he definitely was getting on with his life.
Yes.
And I mean, he still had his kids. Clearly, he's the good guy.
Yes.
in that whole relationship. But I mean, given that this is supposed to take place 24 years after the events occurred, there's definitely going to be
some hostilities.
Yeah, time heals all wounds. Not completely, but for the most part. And now there's kids involved.
Right.
And I think when we were watching it, Gracie mentioned about the kids, and I was just like, how are you going to hate her? But she's your mom. She's all you've ever known your entire life. Yeah, it was gross. Yeah, your mom's basically a child molester. But it's got to be a twisted sort of thing in your head. I mean,
sure.
It's how do you
reconcile that?
Yeah, how do you reconcile the loathing you feel for the act versus the fact that the act resulted in your existence?
Right.
That's a strange story.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about Mary, but we didn't talk about her twin Charlie, the brother, who has this really nice scene with the dad and gets him high.
Yeah.
That was, I guess that's comedic, but
it just showed
he
another
says to the son, like, you're leaving, and he's like, I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that the dark cloud over his young life has always been, well, your mother's just the worst because this is what she did. And you're basically a product of that.
Yeah.
He seemed to be the most, well, I think also the older sister that came back from college was also, she didn't really mince words with her mother.
No, well, I mean, as you get older, you become your own person more and you're less easily manipulated.
Yeah.
And you see the manipulations and you resent the manipulations. I think the son probably received it less than the girls because the mother was everything she talked about was, oh, my mom was beautiful. I was beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's a very superficial sort of mindset that she had.
Yeah.
And that applied especially to her daughters.
Yeah.
It's like constantly talking about their weight. I don't think that would apply much to the son.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a film full of conflicted characters.
Yeah.
Really.
Then you have the friend at the beginning of the film who sits with Elizabeth and just says, just be kind.
Yeah. Well, I think she's probably lived with decades of manipulation herself.
Probably.
I mean, what was it? The lawyer was like, oh yeah, the reason why she's in business is because people keep
like the
buying
same
pies
four
because
people.
it's just they just don't want to deal with her or something like that.
Yeah.
So they just
or they feel bad, so they it's the same 4 people that buy stuff.
Yeah.
Although she did seem to lose a customer there.
Yeah.
They said that they were leaving, but
yeah, and then she started.
And then she lost her shit because she already made the pie.
Mm-hmm.
And then it felt like Joe was overcompensating, like, oh, this is so delicious. And it's like, was that really the thing that was triggering her, or was it something else?
Loss of control. That was a piece of her life that she thought was locked down, and suddenly it just wasn't there anymore.
She didn't like Elizabeth.
No. Well, Elizabeth wasn't something that she can control.
Right.
You know, this was somebody that was actually going to eventually have some sort of power over her because of her betrayal of her.
Do you think that she knew that Elizabeth and her husband were getting so chummy?
No, because it really wasn't like they were getting chummy. It was just sort of, to me, it was just Elizabeth. For me, it felt like the husband was just an exercise, like an acting exercise, like how when she went into the pet store and she started like trying to become, trying to feel some sort of like sexual passion while sitting on the back steps leading to the alley behind the pet store. Yeah. That's just, I'm gonna really act the hell out of this. I'm gonna channel it. I'm gonna go method. And what better way to get into this woman's skin than to have sex with the person that she had sex with that is basically the impetus for her entire fame or infamy.
Right. But again, so this is the victim being victimized again, because
he's just being used again.
Yeah.
And except now he's an adult, and well, that's why Elizabeth was just sort of like, this is just what grown-ups do. Right.
And his whole thing was like, I thought you liked me.
Yeah, he's still a little kid. He doesn't really see the transactional nature of this whole thing, or just being used for that sort of thing. Yeah. It's sort of like, well, no, this is supposed to be love.
Right.
That's a little.
Well, when he has that fight with Grace, that line he says, if we're as much in love as we say we are.
Yeah.
And then that flips her out. Like, she is like,
he's questioning this reality that she's made for him.
Yeah.
That's a no. Not for the gaslighter, the manipulator. Yeah. It's just no. This is how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole thing takes place around the kid's graduation.
Right.
So it's like even the sort of like the little perfect model that she's built, it's fracturing. Mm-hmm. It's the kids aren't going to be there anymore.
Right.
The kids have always been there because remember, she gave birth to the first one while she was in prison.
Right.
So there's always been kids there. There's always been that
extension,
that extra hook into Joe, which now those hooks are gone. Now she's probably panicking. Mm-hmm. There's this other woman who's pretending to be, who's going to be me, and he's got his weird butterfly obsession. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she's definitely sees there's cracks in the home that she has made.
Yeah.
So
do you think she'll? I mean, obviously this is speculation because we can't see that far into the future. But do you think she'll be able to maintain Joe, or will he at some point just shake it off and like walk away? I
get the impression that he's kind of waking up. So I don't know if that marriage will last long after the kids go to college. Mm. That's the impression that I get.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. Yeah. I really, as hard as it was to watch this, and as cringy as I found the subject matter, I found it super fascinating. And I think just based on that alone, I would give this movie an 8. I think the dialogue it's not, I mean, there was some funny, like the thing with, I don't think we have enough hot dogs, like blew my mind. I mean, how do you top that line, right? But I think that the dialogue was really, really done well. It was just enough batshit, but not. Like, I could see people having these conversations, and I could see people saying these things, and I'm sure a lot of it is rooted in factual things maybe, but it was done really well. And I think that, again, to me, the MVP was Joe, and I felt bad because I felt like, again, he's constantly being victimized by these women. but he doesn't see it. Maybe he just doesn't understand it because he doesn't have a way of defining it. I think Julianne Moore, as reprehensible as she is just an amazing actress, and she does a really great job here. I think Natalie Portman, she's kind of one of those actresses I think I've said in the past, I could take her or I can leave her, but she is absolutely stunning in this. She is really, really good. I think the three of them should have gotten nominated for something, but especially the actor that plays Joe. I think he was just very nuanced and very layered and very interesting. I was never bored. I never looked at my watch. I was completely mesmerized by everything that was going on in the screen. Even the lesser characters held my attention. The lawyer, I thought he was interesting. That whole situation or that whole conversation that Elizabeth has with him. I thought the Georgie character was really interesting. Even though it was a small part, the Lydia character in the beginning, the one that says, be kind, that was interesting. I thought Mary was a great character. I thought Charlie, the son, the other twin, was a good character. Really, really liked the way that this was handled. Again, this is not an easy topic. And yet the filmmakers and the writers really did an outstanding job here. Kudos to whoever nominated this for original screenplay, because it definitely warrants that. I think just the subject matter and the way it's handled and the story that's told absolutely makes this a compelling watch.
I would probably just give it a 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought everybody did a great job. I just like it when a film brings me somewhere to an ending, and this sort of just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And and plus, I don't know. If you're going to do a comedy, do a comedy. If you're going to do a drama, do a drama.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to throw weird, ridiculous comedy elements into a serious drama, it just sort of takes me out.
Yeah.
Like every time that freaking music played, I was just like,
funny. It was too much.
What is going
Yes.
on?
Yeah. It was
Is
too
this
much.
like an SCTV skit or something?
It could have been.
So yeah,
That dragged it down for you?
it would just frequently take me out because it happened a lot.
Yes, it does. It does.
And it would work great in a comedy. You know what? Maybe it wouldn't be so funny if it wasn't a comedy, because it would be diluted by all the other funny stuff that you're watching. But
Yeah.
I don't know. As a little experience, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But as a whole packaged movie deal, I don't know. It didn't work for me overall.
Okay, fair
I'm
enough.
not saying this is a bad movie. No, it's not. It's okay. So I will give it a 6.
What did you think of the story?
I thought the story was interesting. It just, like I said, it just sort of stops.
Mhm.
So
Would you have wanted some sort of resolution? Would that have made it better for you?
yeah, some kind of resolution, some sort of
Tying up loose
ends. I don't know. I mean, it went on for a while. I mean, how long was the movie? An hour and a half?
Almost 2 hours, like an hour and
Almost
40.
2 hours. You'd figure by the end of 2 hours, you'd have...
an hour and 57 minutes, so
Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah, you'd figure you'd have it like an absolute, like, okay, this is the end, and I'm happy with this ending. Whereas the ending we get is her doing that weird scene 4 times.
Right. And asking to do it again
Yeah.
because she thinks that she just has it.
Yeah, and I
Meanwhile, the
guess
guy is just like, "I'm done
maybe
here."
that's supposed to be funny too, and that because you could hear the sort of annoyance in the director's voice when she has to do it again.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think the director just realizes, listen, lady, we're not making Citizen Kane.
Yeah,
here.
this is
you're trying to seduce a
lifetime,
boy with
yeah.
a snake in your hand. With the cheesiest porno dialogue ever. It wasn't even like the dialogue from The Note, you know. It
No.
was just the lamest dialogue ever.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I would give it a 6. Like I said, I would say if you got time and you feel like seeing something that's
Different.
definitely different,
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah.
But if you're not interested in that sort of thing, don't worry about it. You could skip this one.
Yeah. I mean, we're pairing this with another Oscar-nominated movie. Neither one has anything to do with the other.
Aside from Oscars.
Aside from Oscars. Although the other movie's a love story. Is this a love story?
No, there is no love here.
If they say they're in love as much as they say they are. I'm just kidding.
But they aren't. It's just gaslighting and
Manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You feel sad for Joe.
You feel sad for Joe. It is icky.
It is definitely a cringe-filled movie.
Yes.
Not in that.
Not like extras.
Yeah, not like that. But it's like you just have an overall sense.
Yeah.
Like there's like a cloud of cringe hanging over this movie.
Yes.
You don't really see anything super cringy, but it's just there.
All the sex scene.
Even that was
No.
Probably the cringiest moment was, oh, you're really brave for showing your arms. That was just like, oh,
that was too much.
Fuck did you say that? That was terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's wrap it up.
You don't want to keep talking about this film?
I'm all done.
All right, so you give it a 6, I give it an 8. I think absolutely if you are so inclined to watch something that's going to really make you think, I think this movie definitely elicits a lot of conversation and just thought. There's a lot to unpack here. There's multiple layers and nuances to this story. And I think that if you have an hour and 57 minutes, absolutely go to Netflix and check out December.
Yeah. I think,
2023, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 57 minutes. This, again, was directed by Todd Haynes.
Well, you know what you just said, I think I enjoyed talking about this.
Oh, interesting. Well, I think, we talked briefly about victimization, and I think that's one of the things that the writers sort of address here without bludgeoning you over the head with, because again, why do we find these stories fascinating? Why do we keep going to this well? It's because we have this perverse need to be voyeurs, to want to feel better about our own lives and say, oh, well, my life sucks, but at least I'm not this person, right? So I think there's a lot. And again, just from the point of view of the people involved, especially like the Joes of the stories, like the people that have continuously been victim or re-victimized, right? It's just fascinating to me. Yeah. All right. So with that, we will bid you, well, again, definitely go check it out. And missed opportunity for the Oscars to nominate that guy, Charles, for portraying Joe. I think he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, the Oscars suck.
They do. All right. And with that, we bid you all a
good night.
Good night.